It's my honor to welcome the Honorable Thomas R. Lamont, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I knew you could do it. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel Martinson, for the kind introduction to you, Ms. Kidd, for your leadership and strong advocacy in support of Army families. I am honored and humbled to be here today in the presence of many important people. I say important because the vast majority of you are volunteers. You're Army volunteers. And as such, you play a very critical and vital role in sustaining the health of the all-volunteer Army. Now, I have to go off script, too, because I'm supposed to say thanks and acknowledge the Schreckheis family. I don't think they're here yet, but we will say a special thanks anyway to Lieutenant Colonel Clint Schreckheis and Mrs. Schreckheis and their 3 sons for all the support they have given to our Army soldiers and their families. They are being honored as the first runner-up for the Volunteer Family of the Year. And now to the rest of you important people, family readiness group leaders and spouse leaders. Your dedication and strong support of Army families are integral pieces of ensuring Army readiness. It is particularly significant that our current President, Mrs. Obama, recognized the importance that military families play in the defense of our nation. In the 2011 federal budget, the administration has pledged to boost funding for family support programs by 3%, above the 2010 enacted level of $8.8 billion. 3% growth, that's good in this economy. They have proposed increased funding to expand the availability of affordable, high-quality child care services, counseling, and assistance services. And by assistance services, we're talking financial, transition, and relocation. All of which is to help families meet the challenges of repeated deployments and family separations. Again, our First Lady, Michelle Obama, recently noted, and I quote, "I am in awe of sacrifices they make. If you think about it, a tiny fraction of our population is bearing the burden of 8 years of war, serving tour after tour of duty, and I am in awe of the military families that I meet, spouses who play the role of both parents," close quote. She further stated, "We all understand the readiness of our armed forces depends on the readiness of our military families." As the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, I have the important and often daunting responsibility to ensure we are taking care, good care, of our soldiers and their families. Now, clearly, I can't do it without the support of your leadership and your passion and your support. I also depend on each of you to communicate with leadership what's working, what's not working, and how we can improve this support. Only then can we refine and improve our support programs and services. 9 years of war have not been easy for the Army. Many of our families have experienced tremendous loss and endured long-term intensive treatment for physical and emotional wounds. Our suicide rates, our post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury remain signature events of this war. Recognizing the need for change, Army leadership has made a significant commitment to rebalance health promotion, risk reduction, and suicide prevention programs and services. Introduced by General Casey at AUSA last year, the Comprehensive Soldier Fitness Initiative provides soldiers, family members, and civilians with the tools to build and enhance resiliency to grow and thrive in today's Army. If you aren't familiar with the program, I urge you to learn more about it and take the online assessment for yourself. Comprehensive Soldier Fitness, you can find it. Then encourage other spouses to take it. And most importantly, give us your feedback. While we have made great strides in our support of families, we recognize there is much that we really don't know. What are the long-term effects of 9 years of conflict? Is an Army family's resiliency improving or waning with each subsequent deployment? What about our children, our most precious resource? To date, over 524,000 soldiers with children have deployed in support of this war effort, with 45% of them having 2 or more deployments. On June 30th of this year, there are over 142,000 Army children dealing with the absence of a deployed parent. How are they coping with the impact of deployment on their daily lives? What can we do to enhance their personal or individual resilience and ensure they have the tools to deal with the often unique academic, social, and emotional challenges that they face as military children? Now, what can the Army do to assist the schools where our children spend the majority of their time to ensure each child receives the necessary academic and emotional support to grow and thrive? Well, today's forum presenters will provide you with the results of some of the current research in this area, as well as some recommendations on what we can do to better support our children as they deal with deployment and reintegration. This information will let us focus our support to Army families around the world as they cope with the multiple and lengthy deployments, whether they live near an Army installation or in communities throughout America. I also want to direct you to the results of a research study that our office has sponsored. In 2007, we asked the Rand Arroyo Group to conduct an in-depth study that looked at both the academic as well as the social and emotional behavioral impacts of deployment on children. I hope you find that Rand research helpful, especially their recommendations on how we can partner with our schools and community resources to better meet the needs of our children. As you will hear, we are seeking more studies that follow our children as they mature to better understand the potential future impact of these deployments on Army children and adolescents. We need to know not just what's going on today, but how our children are going to react with years to come. Are there lingering effects? Is there a lingering impact? How did the reintegration effort go with the father or mother back from service? We need to understand these things. Now, there is one other significant Army initiative addressing the behavioral health needs of our children that I would like to highlight for you. This past year, the Army's Medical Command stood up the Child, Adolescent, and Family Behavioral Health Proponency at Madigan Army Hospital at Joint Base Lewis McChord. Its mission is to support and sustain comprehensive and integrated behavioral health care for military children and their families at all Army installations. This effort is not designed to add to the number of programs that already exist, but rather to capitalize on the existing programs and achieve some synergy from effective coordination, integration, and targeted strengthening of our current resources. Now, their vision is two-pronged. The first is establishment of a Child and Family Assistance Center, a one-stop shop where multiple providers, both primary care and behavioral health, will be co-located, facilitating access and integration of care. The second is the school-based pilot program that was launched just this past August in time for the start of the new school year. In a collaborative partnership between Madigan Army Hospital and the local school district, the Army has placed a social worker in each of the 6 on-post schools. The 6 schools also share the dedicated service of a child psychiatrist and a child psychologist. By placing these resources directly in schools serving the military, they envision a greater access to the care as well as more effective integration with school services. Now, based on this pilot and the successes to be gained from this pilot, they hope to expand the additional installations in the future. In closing, I thank you for all you do to support our soldiers and their families. I encourage you to continue to share your experience and invaluable insights with leadership and policymakers. Please take the time to help us get it right. The nation owes each and every one of you a tremendous debt of gratitude that can never be fully repaid. Please know you are appreciated. Thank you very much. Well,
thank you so much, sir. We know that your time is limited, and we really appreciate your sharing some time with us this morning. We're going to now take a 15-minute break, and let's see. If you can be back here at 10 minutes after 9, I'd really appreciate it so we can get started with our panel. Thank you. Well, welcome back. Yesterday, the senior Army leadership laid out key issues and the way ahead for soldier and family member programs and services. Today, we're going to hear from a panel of subject matter experts in the area of deployment effects upon children and adolescents. These subject matter experts represent a cross-section of current thinking from academia, major research institutes, and the United States Army. Our first presenter will be Dr. Richard Lerner of Tufts University. He will speak on understanding the strengths and enhancing thriving among America's military youth. He will be followed by Dr. Amy Richardson of RAND. She will speak about the impact of parental deployment on child academic achievement and social and emotional functioning. Dr. Richardson will be followed by Dr. Angela Hubner of Virginia Tech, who will speak about parenting in the context of military deployment and lessons learned from the field. She will be followed by Dr. Shelley McDermott Wadsworth of Purdue University. Dr. McDermott Wadsworth will speak about helping children face the challenges of deployments. And she'll be followed by Ms. Shirley Young of the United States Army Reserve. Ms. Young will provide a presentation on backpack journalism program. And she'll be followed by our final presenter, Ms. Kathleen Marin, who is the Director of Installation Services at the Office of the Assistant Chief of Staff for Installation Management. Ms. Marin's presentation will outline the many DoD and Army efforts that support children and adolescents during caregiver deployments. Following these distinguished speakers, we'll have a short question and answer period. So let's get started. Please welcome Dr. Richard Lerner.
Good morning. I'm privileged to be here, and I'm excited that I'm able to open this session with information about what is still a relatively new approach to understanding America's young people. This is a strength-based approach, and we'll see in a moment that it contrasts very markedly with the traditional way of thinking about young people. And at the end of my talk, I'm going to call for a new positive development study of America's young people, along the lines that we heard the Secretary mention during his remarks earlier. So could I have the next slide? The study of adolescence started about 1904 in a book called Adolescence by a professor named G. Stanley Hall, who had just graduated from Harvard and set up shop at Clark University. And Hall claimed that adolescence was a universal and inevitable period of storm and stress, that the biology of adolescence made them have this deficit in character and behavior. And the best we could do for our adolescents is to try to reduce their deficits across this 10-year period. Parents, just hold your nose, close your eyes, and hope that the 10 years will go swiftly. Hall led us to believe that adolescents are problems to be managed. This view, which permeated academic studies of young people, was discrepant from what many parents were reporting and what many practitioners were reporting. They saw incredible strengths in our young people. Adolescence is a period of life when we see the most marked change in humans, more so than infancy. Although the changes in infancy are huge, infants don't have the ability to make judgments about where they want to go, what they want to do, what choices they'll make. Adolescents have that capacity. So strengths in adolescence exist because of their ability to change. And this led practitioners and ultimately researchers to formulate, if I could have the next slide, a view of adolescence as resources to be developed. In the 1990s, a new perspective emerged called the positive youth development perspective. And if you can come to the next slide. There are 6 ideas involved in the positive youth development perspective. Because of this potential to change that I talked about, all young people have strengths. All contexts, families, schools, communities, faith institutions, also have strengths. Every place you look to see where kids are interacting, there are potential nutrients that can grow their behavior positively. We call these strengths of the ecology of young people developmental assets. And here's the key hypothesis of the positive youth development perspective. If we could be clever enough to align the strengths of young people with these developmental resources, every young child could be put on a more positive path. Rather than prevent these deficits, we could promote positive development in young people. And if this is the case, then we could be optimistic that we have it in our power to enhance the lives of all young people. So, next slide, please. Up until 2002, this positive youth development perspective was promoted by practitioners, but there was no scientific evidence that the ideas associated with it really were valid. Don Floyd, the president of National 4-H Council, called me up one morning and said, could you do a study of positive youth development? How much money do you want? You don't get those calls very often. And so I said, well, I don't know, $1 million. And he said, okay. Over the years, he's given much more than that. We launched in 2002 the 4-H study of positive youth development. And although it's called 4-H study, only a portion of the kids are from 4-H. And we'll see that is an important point in a couple of slides. So let's learn a little bit about the 4-H study. The 4-H study is a longitudinal investigation of a particular type. We've heard the secretary talk about the importance of a longitudinal study where you take the same kids and you follow them across time. The problem with the longitudinal study is that once you start it, some kids drop out. And when they get to the next age level and you want to test them again, they've already seen the questionnaire. So you need to control for that previous testing. And we've done that in this longitudinal study. We started in 5th grade with 10-year-olds. When those 10-year-olds got to 6th grade, we took a new group of 6th graders and began studying them. So now we have 2 groups. When those 2 groups got to 7th grade, we took a new group of 7th graders and then began following them. In this way, the study gets larger and larger as we go along. And today, we've studied 10 more minutes left. Oh, thanks. No problem. We have sampled more than 7,000 kids and 3,500 of their parents from 43 states in the nation. Next slide, please. So I'm going to give you 2 sets of findings from the 4-H study. First sets of findings are in our most recent analyzed wave. We're currently collecting grade 12 data, and we're in the process of analyzing grade 11 data. These grade 10 data are the first public presentation of these findings. We've published through grade 9, so you're the first audience to see what's happened in grade 10. Now, the 2 types of analyses are point-in-time analysis, where we look at all the 10th graders. Remember, some of these kids are brand new to the study because of the way we've designed the study. So there's some kids who we've studied longitudinally from 5th grade to 10th grade, and some kids who we've studied only in 10th grade. These first analyses, the point-in-time analyses, combine those two groups. And what you see in the 10th grade is an incredibly marked advantage for 4-H kids. How do we figure that out? We take 4-H kids from all over the country, and then we match them precisely with kids who are identical to them in race, sex, socioeconomic status, family structure, religion, area of the country in which they live. We don't go down to whether they're left-handed or right-handed, but short of that, we really do very close matching. And so the only difference between these kids is that one group is in 4-H, the green group, and the group that is matched to them is in a comparison sample. So what we see in 10th grade is that 4-H kids have higher scores on positive development, things like competence and confidence and caring about other people, better social connections, and caring about others. That's how we measure PYD. They contribute more to their community. I'll have more to say about that a little bit. They are less likely to take drugs, less likely to smoke, less likely to be depressed. That SOC acronym, I'm sorry for the acronym, is a score for intentional self-regulation, how well kids are able to make good choices and actualize their choices. And then they're less likely to be depressed. Next slide. In terms of school functioning, in 10th grade, 4-H kids are more likely to have higher grades. They see themselves as more academically competent. They're more engaged in school, and they have higher expectations about going to college. This is a very good story if you happen to have a 10th grade kid in 4-H. Next slide. Now, the story is a little bit different, but still very positive for the longitudinal data. Now, these are kids who've been in the study from 5th grade on. So it's a smaller sample. Obviously, kids who stay in a study are different than kids who only study once because of the motivation to stay involved is different. So what we see is still very good news. The longitudinal kids are higher in positive development, higher in community contribution, less likely to take drugs, less likely to use alcohol and have cigarettes. They're lower in delinquency, but not significantly. The other scores are not significantly different. Next slide. In terms of school outcomes, the major thing we see is that 4-H kids have better grades. The other things are not significantly different. Finally, next slide now. So here we measured not just community contribution, but the engagement of young people in making a positive difference in their community. Active and engaged citizenship. And what we see for the longitudinal kids, the 4-H kids, are more actively engaged citizens. So this is a very good story about positive development. You go to the next slide. What we are able to find out is if you take the individual strengths of kids, their ability to change in positive ways with assets like out-of-school time programs, 4-H is an out-of-school time program, and you put that together, you're going to get positive development defined by those characteristics I mentioned before: competence, confidence, character, caring, and connection. When kids are showing positive development, and they're more likely to show it if they're in programs like 4-H, you're going to see contribution and lowered risk behaviors. Now, why is this important for America's military youth? 85,000 Army youth are in 4-H programs. Any of you have kids in 4-H? A few, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. The problem with the 4-H study, however, is we didn't select out, we didn't identify whether or not the kids in the 4-H study are military kids. We can go back now, and we'd like the opportunity to do that, and ask the longitudinal kids who we still have and the new kids who are coming in, are you a child of a military family? But we didn't do that. And we need to find a way to target America's military kids in a positive youth development study. Next slide, my next to last slide. We need to conduct a study of positive development among America's military youth. Several years ago, about 2 years ago now, several scholars from Tufts University, where I am, Boston College, University of Pennsylvania, University of Texas, Austin, University of Virginia, and other universities got together and said, we need to make decisions about the well-being and thriving of military-connected children based on evidence from well-designed developmental research. We heard the Secretary say precisely the same thing. No such major longitudinal study exists. Military kids deserve to have policies and programs designed to fit their specific needs. We shouldn't derive from the studies of other kids, like the 4-H study, ideas, recommendations for military kids. They deserve to have their own. And enhancing the lives of military-connected children, and this is a point that's like bringing coals to Newcastle, also enhances the quality of the lives of military families. How are we, these scholars, going to work together across universities? We're thrilled that the Military Child Education Coalition stepped up and brought us together and gave us the infrastructure. So they're helping us pursue this idea of a study. And last slide, we call this study the AMY study, America's Military Youth, toward the study of positive development in these times of challenge. I hope and I fully expect that if we conduct such a study, we will find that there are unique strengths of America's military child, of America's Army children, and that those strengths, given the resources that exist as evidenced by your presence in this room, to promote positive development, will give us unique insights about the positive development of our military youth. With your help, we'll get this study done in maybe 2 or 3 years.